and gentlemen, how are we all doing on this? Got to remember the day. The days, they all seem to be. That's one thing. We're going off topic already. We're only, 20 seconds into the live stream. But what I would say is days during lockdown are just completely different. You know, the days, they don't exist during lockdown. It is a Tuesday. No, it's a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday. Oxford United are playing tonight, but it's not a league game, so there won't be a match reaction for it. But I still thought it's Tuesday, and we're going to go live. But also for multiple things, because we've got lots of things to talk about today, because of course we are going to be doing the January transfer window roundup for Oxford United. Hopefully you like the cheeky little graphic going on here. Hopefully I haven't made any mistakes. Hopefully that's all accurate. But give your thoughts in the chat down below as well. Obviously there's been 4 arrivals and 4 departures for Oxford United this January. Will these arrivals push Oxford United to the playoffs? Will they push them up, dare I say it, to the Championship? That's what we're all sort of hoping and thinking at the moment. There's a big question mark down there as well. Give me your thoughts as well. Will the departures affect Oxford United going forward? Of course, for the rest of the season, we have seen 4 players, as you can see on the screen right now, this side leaving the club. How they affect us? How close are Oxford United to selling one of our arguably our valuable player and one of our most influential and important players as well? We're going to be discussing that. There's a few players linked to leave as well. Even though they haven't officially left, we will still be sort of talking about it because I think it's interesting to speak about as well. And I'll be intrigued to hear your thoughts. And of course, if you like this episode of the podcast, and if you like what you hear, please do leave a like as well. And subscribe as well. We don't just do Oxford United content. I'm an Oxford United fan, so I do Oxford United content. So I do match reactions, as obviously I'm doing the transfers and stuff like that around Oxford. I do that. But I've got a really, really exciting episode of the podcast coming very, very soon where I look at every club as every club in League One. I'm going to be looking at their sort of their best players and things like that. Will be really, really exciting. That is something I'm really looking forward to doing. I have sort of done the research and done all that sort of stuff behind it. But of course, that will be coming out very, very soon as well. As Oxford United don't have a game this week, there won't be a match reaction tomorrow, but I will in that time be recording that very, very exciting episode of the podcast. So hopefully that'll be coming. I don't want to make too many promises, but hopefully it will be out by hopefully Thursday. I say hopefully a few times. Hopefully it will be out between probably about Thursday or Friday. Hopefully that's fingers crossed. But that's not what we're here for today. We're here to talk about Oxford United's incredible business. I'm going to say this early on. I'm going to say it very, very early because I think it's got to be said. And I think as Oxford United fans, or if you're not an Oxford United fan, you're just here to speak about transfers. Or maybe you're a fan of a club that sold one of the players to us as well. I'd be interested to see if there is any people in the chat right now. But Oxford fans in the chat, please give me your thoughts, because what I would say, and I think a lot of Oxford United fans could be with me here, we've been a little bit critical at times around our board and around the way that this football club is run. And I don't necessarily mean I don't necessarily mean Tiger. I mean or the chairman, if you don't know what that means, the chairman or other things like that. I mean, I'm sort of intrigued to see at the moment, where we are going as a football club. At board level, I think that's the important thing. But what I am going to say is, and a few people have been very, very critical of this, but what I will say is you have to just be honest with you have to just applaud what this board and what Oxford United have done this transfer window. Because when we set out in January and when we set out this sort of the list of things we wanted to sort of see at Oxford United in January, you can go back and watch that live episode of the podcast. I did that right at the start. It was the 1st of January. I did a live stream with people in the chat, and I said, and it's a video as well, of course, on the podcast as well, on the YouTube channel. I did say, and we said together, and we looked at everything, and we knew where we needed to strengthen. We needed the areas, and we could easily target them. And we knew the areas of the team and the positions where we needed to add maybe first team quality, whether that was depth. We knew there were areas that we needed to bring in. And Oxford United did that. Oxford United have done that. And you just have to be honest with you, and you have to just put your hands up and say, that is, it's very, very good business. And the players that we've brought in as well, they're not just any old players. They're actually areas that we really, really needed to strengthen. I can see a few people have joined the stream. If you could leave a like, that'd be incredible. I really, really appreciate that. If you're new as well, subscribe and give your thoughts. Just to basically summarise what you think of the transfer window for Oxford United. Because I've got a few questions I want to ask the chat as this podcast live episode goes through, of course. Remember, if you're not watching this live and you're watching this as a normal episode of the podcast, do leave a like as well. And do comment as well, because I'll be interested to see what you think. Obviously, I will be replying to the comments on the video as well. But on the live chat, we will be speaking. And we've got the first chat of the live, and it's Matthew Spell said, "Hello, mate. How you doing, my friend? How you doing? Hopefully you're having a very, very good day. Hopefully you've had a good day as well." Give your thoughts as well, mate. Give your thoughts. I'm intrigued to see what you think. I know we have been talking. We've been speaking, sort of on the Instagram page. Make sure you follow that. Cheeky little plug there. We have been speaking on that, and we were speaking sort of last night during deadline day about that. Myself and Matthew, and we were having some very positive discussions about it. So I've been intrigued to what you think. You said you're buzzing with the new players. Fantastic. I'm buzzing as well. 2M Duke says hello, my friend. How are you doing? Are you an Oxford United fan? I haven't seen the chat before. I do apologise if you have been. I don't recognise your name. How are you, mate? I'm very well, thank you. Hopefully you're having a very good day yourself. You're an Oxford United fan. You're a football fan. What are you? But welcome either way. Welcome to the stream as well. If you are an Oxford United fan, what do you think of the business Oxford United have done this January? Because I think, in my opinion, you just have to applaud the board and say we've done great work. Now, right, let's crack straight on then. Exactly what is going on. TM says Carl has pulled it out of the bag with the signings. I have to agree, my friend. TM Duke, I have to agree with you 100%. Is that Diogo? Make sure I want to pronounce this right. I'm so sorry. Diogo says Barker looks good. 100%. And we will be going through them as well. So let's go in chronological order. I think we'll go with chronological order. We'll go Luke McNally signed. I think it was 2 days before the deadline day. 2M says just found you. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed, mate, please do subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, you might be our 140th subscriber. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. We're doing very well, and I'm glad you've found the podcast. I really do appreciate it. And welcome, I guess. Welcome. That's all I can say. Matthew says, and I think Derek Osai on loan is a good move for him. 100%. We will be coming to the loans, and we'll be out, and we'll come in as well. So Luke McNally signed, of course, 2 days before the deadline day. I believe it was 2 days, 2 or 3 days before. And I think that's a good move. It's a permanent deal. It's not a loan. It's from St Patrick's Athletic, which is in Ireland, I believe. I hope I've got that right. It is from Ireland. He's a centre back. Again, very positive. It's an area we needed to strengthen, and we've done that on a permanent basis as well. He signed a 3.5-year deal as well, which is fantastic. Yeah, mate, I've just subbed. Fantastic, my friend. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, of course. And everyone else is in here as well. Thank you all for coming in the stream. We've got lots of things to talk about today. Lots of questions I want to ask you. Lots of different sort of situations as well in terms of who do you think's our best team now? Where do you think these players come in and how do you think they fit in? Because you have to remember as well, we're on a fantastic run. Do you just put all these players in the same team as well? I'd be very interested to see what you people think, how we deal with this, because it's not like we're an awful run and January's come. It's like, wow, let's go and sign every single player we possibly can and put them all in and hope that we've got a fresh new squad, a fresh new start and go on a fantastic run. We have to remember, we're on a fantastic run as it is. We don't really want to bring too many players in and sort of upset, I guess, what's going on at the moment. We're on a fantastic run and we're pushing up the table. However, I say that, we did need business, we did need signings, and we've done quality business in that. Anyway, going back to Luke McNally, I think that's a fantastic signing. Now, I think a few fans were thinking Luke McNally's going to come straight in. I don't even think he's probably going to be our third choice centre-back, to be honest with you. I think our third choice centre-back will be Grayson, if I'm being honest. I think we will see Luke McNally. I think we might see Luke McNally also as maybe sort of an Atkinson, I'd say, and maybe a Rob Atkinson of last season, sort of learning off the likes of Atkinson, like he did learn from Dickey. But I think with McNally, he's a very he's clearly well thought of. He was very well thought of in Ireland, and from what Carl Robinson said as well, obviously he's not going to come in and say he was a bad player. Of course, he's just signed him. But from what he's saying, it sounds positive, and we knew we needed a centre back, and we've targeted someone that I think could be. We've got a good track record with bringing in young centre backs and developing them into being quality centre backs. You look at Rob Dickey, we brought him in. He was at Reading before, I believe, and he had loan spells at other clubs. But he was from Reading. We brought him in from. We came in and we developed him. We brought him in. And he looked, in the end, and he is now, gone on to be a championship defender, playing week in, week for QPR. But we developed him and made him into a fantastic centre-back. And that was down to Carl Robinson himself. And he came in and look what he's done to do now. That's the same with Atkinson as well. It's the same with Moore to an extent. And obviously now McNally. So I can understand what that signing means. And I really do sort of... I get it. I really do get it. I think that's a really good signing. I wouldn't expect people to start coming in and saying that I think he's going to be sort of that number one centre-back or even number two centre-back or even number three centre-back. I probably think he probably is maybe fourth choice or maybe third choice. I'm not too sure. But I think it's a good signing. It's a sensible one, but I think we need to hold off a little bit and just sort of let the lad develop, let the lad grow into be the and develop into the footballer we hope he can be and the potential suggests he can be. I think that's important that we let him do that, because I don't think we need to get all guns blazing over him. He's a young lad. It's a big move for him to come over from Ireland to England. It's a big move for him sort of outside of football. So I think we need to be careful about that. But I do generally think he's got great potential, and clearly he's very, very highly thought of. So, no, really, really excited about Luke McNally. And give your thoughts on Luke McNally as well. As I go through the players, give your thoughts on that specific player as well, because I'll be reading all the chats out, and I'll be intrigued to see what you people think in the chat about that one. Anyway, let's move on to the next player then, Joe Grayson. Also, can you also make sure that the audio and the actual video quality is it good quality? It's a bit late anyway if it isn't, but hopefully everything should be okay. Hopefully I do, but please do let me know about that as well, because obviously this will be going up as a normal episode of the podcast, a video as well. Anyway, we'll go with the next one then. So obviously on the graphic this side, it is in sort of order of in sort of chronological order in the time that we signed them. So the next time, so it was the first deadline day signing of the January transfer window, of course, was Joe Grayson. For some reason, I keep calling him Joe Graham. I'm not quite sure why I do that. I think it's probably because he's got the grey. From Grayson and Graham. It is Joe Grayson, there we go, I can say it. And of course he is the son of the newly appointed Fleetwood manager as well, which is very, very interesting. He did say that he watched the Fleetwood game for two different reasons with his dad. Of course, his dad was about to take over Fleetwood and he was about to sign for Oxford United. So that's very, very interesting. And clearly, obviously, if he's, I don't want to put, again, too much pressure on him, but hopefully, that is the phone ringing, hopefully, that's good. And obviously that does also mean as well that clearly football, he knows football, his family, football is in the family. So I think that's a really, really good sign as well. Matthew Bell says, look how Robinson isn't just going for an old experienced player, and is going for a younger player to develop into a class player. 100%. I'm guessing that means you're going for Luke McNally there, and I 100% agree with that. I 100% do. And the reason why I think he's doing that in a little bit as well is because, I don't know, the first thing that comes to mind when you've said that, I think, in my opinion, is the fact that this is a manager that has just signed a contract to the club at the start of the season. I think it was a 4-year contract. He's here to stay. He's on a long-term contract. He knows that at Oxford United, what we need to do and what he is doing with these signings, and specifically Luke McNally, is what he's doing is he knows that he's probably going to, unless anything goes drastically wrong, he knows he is probably going to be here for a long time. I think he knows he's going to be here for the foreseeable future. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to bring in these players that can come in and help the team out. Maybe not right now, but we didn't really need a centre-back, to be honest. If we're being honest with each other, we didn't really need a centre-back that's going to come in and be that number one centre-back, because they're not going to come in for Elliot Moore. He's the captain. He's been in great form this season. They're not going to come in for Atkinson, because Atkinson's been in fantastic form this season. And, what we'd said, we needed cover at centre-back. We didn't need a player that was going to come in and be that starting centre-back. We didn't need that. We needed someone that was going to come in and either be an experienced player. I don't think we would have all sat here and cried if we brought in an experienced player, because we weren't really too fussy. But the thing is, I think also we had Massinho. Now, it looks like Massinho isn't going to be registered into the squad, obviously with his knee injury. So it looks like his time could be up a little bit at Oxford United. And while we speak about John Massinho as well, I'll briefly say what I think about that. Is I think, with John Massinho, I think he's been helpful for Oxford United. I think we should definitely say that, but I think he's actually been quite helpful in the coaching as well. So I think it makes sense about that, and we knew that we needed a player that was going to come in and just offer us depth. And we've done that, but I think even better, I think we're better off having a player that maybe not be ready right now, but a player that can learn from these two defenders and then come in and then obviously step up and make their level. It's like a ladder. I think the best way to describe it is like a ladder. It's, you've got the players down here, you've got the Elliot Moore and the Rob Atkinsons up here. Now what Luke McNally's got to do is look up to those people, develop, and obviously then work his way up the ladder. So I think that's a really good piece of business for Oxford United. And I think also Joe Grayson's a really good piece of business. We've got him on loan from Blackburn Rovers until the end of the season. He's very, very versatile as well, which I think is very, very important. Is that he can play at left back, he can play left-sided centre back, and right-sided centre back. But I think he's prominently known to play as a left-sided centre back, defensive midfield as well, which I think is a really underrated position that not many people spoke about. But I will explain my decision why I think bringing in another defensive midfielder is important. And of course, he can play left wing as well. I don't think we're ever going to see him play left wing in Oxford United shirt. He did play there though for Grimsby when he went out on loan there. I want to say, I think it was 2 seasons ago, he went on loan to Grimsby and he did sort of show. He did play at left wing for a shorter period of time, I believe. But yeah, he can play there. But I think that's probably just because he's not slow and he's got a left foot. So I think that's probably the main thinking behind that. But generally, already to name 4 positions for this lad, it adds that real. I think it actually is even more helpful. If we weren't too fussy when we were speaking about these players at the start of the season. We said we need defensive cover. But what Joe Grayson's coming in and he's covering us at left back, he's covering us at centre back, and of course he's actually covering us at CDM as well, which I think is again a really underrated position because you look at the players when Gorin's not available. Hansen, I think he can do a job there, but I don't feel as comfortable without Gorin there and Hansen in there. Obviously, we've seen Kelly do there, but he wasn't great there. I definitely preferred Kelly further up the pitch as well. So yeah, I think Joe Grayson's going to be good, and as well, he's really, really highly thought of at Blackburn, which I think is important as well. If we're selling players and we're getting players on loan, and on Twitter you're seeing I know it doesn't matter too much, but it's a good sign when obviously the fans of the teams that we're getting these players from are thinking highly of them. If they come in and they're like, yeah, they can have him on loan. He's not going to affect us too much or anything like that. It gives me that sort of feeling that maybe it isn't. I know it doesn't matter too much. It's the fans, and of course they're not going to be too worried. I'm sure Joe Grayson will probably be a Championship player in the future, but right now it doesn't work for Blackburn. But if Blackburn fans, for example, are thinking that he's got a really, really good future ahead of him, and it's a good move for him, and he thinks he can do a great job in League One, it's a good sign for us. So, from what the fans are saying at Blackburn and the general the general way that a lot of people are looking at this, it's a really, really good signing, and it does sort of help those areas as well. Tom Merrill says new signings look good, 100%, mate. They do look really, really good. We brought in players that we needed to bring in. We brought them into positions where I think they're really, really needed. We targeted them. Obviously, Oxford targeted them. Obviously, their recruitment team targeted them. But as fans, we knew where we wanted to go with this. And also, obviously, like Matthew did, and obviously a few people are more in the stream as well. Give your thoughts on the Joe Grayson deal as well. We've spoken about the Luton McNally one, but give your thoughts on that deal as well, because I think what's really underrated is his versatility. I think he's going to be a really, really helpful player. And of course, he is on the bench today for Oxford United's game against Wimbledon, the Papa Johns. He is on the bench for that game. So, yeah, I think he's going to be good for Oxford United. I think he's got a really good future ahead of him. I think, it's going to be good for him to come into this team and come into this sort of squad that we're in now and come into the positive atmosphere that we're in right now. And hopefully that can be successful. Got rid of some dead wood in there as well, which makes sense. I'm guessing you mean dead wood. You said, didn't you mean dead wood, my friend Tom? And we will come on to the outs. So in fact, we'll do 2 ins, and we'll do the 2 ins. We've spoken about the 2 ins. We'll speak about now the 2 outs. So we've spoken about Luke McNally coming in and Joe coming in as well. We'll speak about the 2 outs, the first 2 outs of the window, which of course, the Joel Cooper did happen before these 2, but Joel Cooper's a bit of a different one. We'll come on to that sort of nearer the end. We'll come on to the 2, I'd say the biggest departures, being Sean Clare and Jordan Obita. I think the Sean Clare one, the Sean Clare one's interesting. I think it makes sense for the player, and I think it makes sense for the club, which is always, hopefully, how a transfer when they leave the club. I think that's always the way you look at it. When you see a player go, you've always got to think of, is it good for the player and is it good for the club? When Rob Dickie left, for example, I'm just using that as example. Is it good for the player? 100%. He's probably going to be on more money. I know that's not the first thing a player's probably thinking. It might be. I don't know. I'm not sure what Rob Dickey's thinking. But for the player as well, he's going to be on a higher wage, going to be on definitely a better contract. He's going to be playing at a higher division, and he's going to be playing at a better team in a better league. So for the player, that Rob Dickey move to QPR was a good one. For the club as well, it wasn't it wasn't outstanding. We weren't, screaming and shouting and hurraying when we sold him, but it made sense for the club to cash in on him because, we would get a decent fee for him. And it's in a time as well, sort of when this whole COVID thing was happening, money's very, very important for the club. So you'd understand why that was the case, and you'd understand why we did that. So with the Sean Clare one, it makes sense for the player because he's a player that needs to play 90 minutes of football week in, week out, and at Burton he's definitely going to get that. He was a player that needed sort of that experience, I think. Well, not necessarily experience, but I guess he didn't need it, but it'd be good for the player to get that experience of playing a lot of football week in, week out, which, like I said, he's going to get, where he's going out on loan to Burton, who are bottom of the league, but are, with a new manager, with a few more players coming in on deadline day as well. So I think that's exciting for him, and I think, he could do a good job there. Of course, it didn't really work out with him when we joined him in and played him at fullback, but from what it sounds like, he's not going to be playing at fullback at Burton, which I think's a good thing for him, because I think we've definitely seen glimpses of him being very, very good when he's come on the wing, so it makes sense. Matthew says, think he's a very, very good signing, brings versatility and a real quality to the squad and to the dressing room. 100%. 100%. 100%, 100%. I think, like we said there, the versatility of a player like Joe is very, very important. And in a league like League One, where it's very, very demanding. There's a lot of games in a short amount of time. Obviously, if they don't get postponed, but hopefully, touch wood, everybody. We don't have any more games postponed, and when we do go back, which I'm pretty sure is come Saturday, is now going to be Saturday, Tuesday. In those short amount of times, and a lot of games in that short amount of time, and obviously the running, it's going to be a very, very difficult one. You need players that can play in multiple positions. You need that versatility, and Joe certainly does bring that. But going back to Sean Clare briefly, I think it's a good move for him. Like I said, I think it's a good move for the club for different reasons, obviously, and for lots of different reasons. I think it's a good move for Sean Clare, because I think for the club, because it takes a player off the registered squad. Of course, if you're under 21, you don't have to be registered, so that makes sense. And yes, we have brought in players that sort of take Sean Clare's space, but I think what we've done is we've put players in that sort of gap that Sean Clare's left. Players that are going to play a lot of football and that are going to help us probably a bit more than Sean Clare is. So I think Sean Clare's a good option to go out on loan. I think it made sense for him. Bit surprising, I'd say. A bit surprising, because like we'd seen of him when he wasn't playing at right back, when he came on the flanks, he looked very, very good. He looked dangerous. He looked like a really, really good player. But he wants to play 90 minutes. He doesn't want to be an impact sub. He doesn't want to come off the bench, understandably. So I think that's a good move for him. And, we wish him all the best at Burton. And I did actually meet him at Sainsbury's. I did actually meet him at the old shop. Said hello to him. He seemed like a nice guy. So I doubt he's watching. He definitely isn't watching. But, anyway, just to let you all know that Sean Clare's a nice guy. And I did also in person wish him good luck at Burton as well. But yeah, I think we can all agree that I think he's going to be good in the future. I don't think it's one of those loan moves where we get rid of him, loan him out now, and you don't know what's going to happen. He might move there permanently. He might move to another club permanently. I think from what we're sort of seeing with Sean Clare, he's a good player to have. But not right now, because we need a player. There were areas where we needed to sort out. And when he came on, he was coming out a right wing, and we definitely needed players that could play on the left. So it didn't all work out, but hopefully Sean Clare's got a future, and I think he will. Give your thoughts on the Sean Clare departure as well. Every single one of you in the chat, give your thoughts. Please do give your thoughts. I'll be reading them out as well. Give your thoughts as well. Matthew says, "What was his meal deal?" To be honest with you, mate, he wasn't getting a meal deal. He was actually getting butter. So yeah, he was getting butter. Yeah, so he wasn't getting a meal deal. It was it was not. I was going to say it was quite late, and it was about 8 o'clock. So he could have been getting a meal deal at 8, but it was quite a strange time to get a meal deal. I'm not too sure. As you can probably tell, we go off topic quite a lot. But he wasn't getting a meal deal. He was getting some butter. But nice guy from what I said. He probably didn't want to speak to me, but I sort of was like, I was going to get my podcast mic out, start interviewing. That would have been a good podcast episode, wouldn't it? But no. I wasn't. I don't think that would have gone down too well. But no, seemed like a nice guy. And give your thoughts on the Sean Clare departure as well. I'd be intrigued to see what you think. Of course, if you're watching this as a video as well, please do leave your thoughts in the comments down below as well, because I'll be responding to them just as I do the chat as well. Anyway, let's move on to the next departure. We're going to get, as we've been doing, we're going to do two arrivals and 2 departures. The next departure is an interesting one. One that when happened, I was definitely quite shocked. TM Duke says, how do you think our strikers rotate now since we got Lee, Taylor, Aggie and Winnell? Great question, my friend. Great question. I will answer it right now. I was going to say we'll answer it when we get to them, but we'll answer it right now. Seeing if you asked it now, we'll answer it now. And I think it's an interesting question. I mean, when we look at the strikers, obviously when I've got the list of players that can play up front, I've got the sort of the depth here in each position. I was going to come to that, but we'll come to that now. As you've answered that, we'll come to that. We look at the strikers. We've obviously got Matty Taylor, who's obviously our top goal scorer, and is in good form. He's scoring goals, which is always very, very important. Of course, Winnell as well, which you haven't seen too much of him. He's been, injured for quite a lot of the season so far, and hasn't actually started a game in the league, I don't believe. And obviously now Elliot Lee coming in from Luton on loan, and of course Dan Aggie as well. Now, if I'm being honest, I don't really see Dan Aggie under Kyle Robinson as a striker anymore. I think we definitely will see Dan Aggie. If Dan Aggie does play, he'll definitely be out wide. I definitely don't think he's going to ever start up front again. I mean, he might, but I can't see it. You look at the players we're bringing in now. Taylor's obviously first choice. Winnell's definitely second choice. And Lee's an interesting one because Lee's very, very versatile. He's a versatile attacker. And we'll come on to him in more detail in a minute. But in terms of rotation, I think the main sense of rotation, I think, is going to be obviously between Taylor and Winnell. And I think that one is going to be a simple case of, Taylor's probably going to start in League One, unless Taylor obviously goes on an unbelievable goal drought and, starts missing open goals, starts missing sitters and sort of actually, not basically in bad form. I can't see really Winnall coming back into that starting, or say back in, he hasn't been in that starting lineup in League One in his Oxford United career so far, but I can't see that happening. Obviously, we've got the Papa John's game tonight and Winnall is starting. To be honest with you, I can see that. I can probably see that being the case because I think with Winnall, we haven't seen enough of him yet. So tonight, I think it's going to be interesting. And I'll be interested to see what Winnall can do. Josh says, hello, mate. How you doing, Josh, my friend? How are you doing? Hopefully you're having a good one. Welcome to the stream. But yeah, no, interesting one. Interesting question, that 100%. And there's a lot of debate about that. A lot of debate because Winnall needs to start scoring. If he's going to put serious pressure on Matty Taylor, he needs to take these opportunities like tonight against Wimbledon and take them with two hands and go and score a couple of goals or put in a good performance. So in terms of rotation, I don't think we will rotate unless we need to. I don't think we'll rotate unless Taylor has a really sort of stinking game. Or a stinking run of games, and then Winnall comes in. But with Elliot Lee, it's an interesting one because we will come on to him in a minute. But yeah, we'll come on to him in a minute. But and it sort of answer your question. Hopefully, I didn't answer your question. I sort of beat around the bush a little bit there. But your question, of course, was how do you think our strikers will rotate now since we've got? And then if you listed all the strikers, to most of you, I can see Taylor starting as our centre forward. I don't think that's going to change. I can see Winnall being the player behind him there. Hopefully, now putting some pressure on Taylor. Now he's fit and now he's getting some game time. And then obviously Lee. Very, very versatile. I can probably see him play up front every now and again, but I think we're probably more going to see him maybe even behind the striker, sort of in that number 10 role, if I'm being honest. And then obviously Agyakwa as well. I can definitely see him being more of a wide player. Matthew says Elliot Lee can go all across the front line. 100%, mate, 100%. He can also play a little bit deeper as well, from what I've heard. I don't know too much about him. I'm not going to pretend like I know all about these players. I haven't scouted them. I haven't scouted them or anything like that. But what I do know, from the sort of basic statistics and sort of the information I've got on them and watching sort of clips and stuff, from what I know of Elliot Lee, he can play as that centre forward. He can play out wide. It's not his favourite position. He can normally it's centre forward or behind the striker in that number 10 role, sort of cam role if you like, and he can play, I believe he has played sort of briefly in that sort of centre mid position, but definitely not a defensive midfielder, definitely not a deep line player, a player that sort of roams, I guess, in that midfield as sort of a playmaker, I guess. But no, and that's what I mean, he's a very, very versatile player, and I think Elliot Lee's a really, really good one. I'm interested to see what he can do. Anyway, briefly going to Obita, give your thoughts on the Obita departure as well. I'd be intrigued to see what you think on the Jordan Obita departure. Also, Oxford versus Wimbledon has just kicked off there as well. So hopefully we can get through. It's the quarterfinals today. It's quarterfinals today. It is. Again, this is it's awful. I definitely should know these sort of things. To be honest with you, I'm not a massive Papa John's. I'm not a massive Papa John's. I'm pretty sure it is the quarterfinals. I'm pretty sure it's not the semi-finals yet. But we've got Wimbledon tonight, so I'll be interested to see the players that are playing, Sykes as well, and obviously Winnall. Two big players that need to take this opportunity and show what they're all about. So it's a big game for some specific players there. To sort of really show Carmson what they're all about and hopefully show that they can be part of the matchday squad come obviously League One games, which is obviously what all players, hopefully Oxford United, have the ambition to do. But Jordan Obita won't be playing for League One again for Oxford United, as he's obviously left to go to Wickham for not a loan, for an underclosed fee. Now Oxford United, we tend to not tell anybody how much we get for players, how much we buy players for. As you can tell, the Luke McNally was an underclosed fee as well. We probably will never know how much we ever get for these players. There's a few rumours, of course, every now and again about these different players. What these people think. Luke McNally could be going for. I'm sure there's a rumour out there of how much we got him, for, how much we bought him for. I'm sure there is a rumour how much we sold Jordan Obita for. We'll never know specifically, officially from the club, but we have sold him for an underclosed fee, and we have got some moolah for him, which is important because I think we've got a player that we bought in for nothing and we've actually got some money for, which is good. Jordan Obita is a good deal. Was he signed him for nothing and sold him for cash? 100%, mate. You've read my mind. You've read my mind, and I think that's as simple, really, as it gets. We bought a player that was going to be helpful. I think was helpful. I don't think he set the world alight. I don't think he was going to be the next Ronaldo or anything like that. Pretty poor example, but I don't think he was going to be the sort of the Oxford United's player of the season. I don't think he was going to go for any of those sort of awards, but he was helpful. He was, it was useful. And he did a decent job for us. He offered versatility, I guess. He played at left back every now and again in the Papa Johns. So he sort of gave Josh Ruffles that bench. Obviously, we saw him play a lot, obviously in League One on the wing. It's one of those deals where he's a useful player, but him leaving, I'm not going to lie, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way towards Jordan Obita. When I saw the news, I didn't exactly cry. I mean, I didn't really cry when Dickey left either, but it wasn't one of those ones where you see him leave, and when you see it come up on your phone or wherever you see it, and you sort of that sort of feeling inside where you're like, oh, please, let not. When that Dickey announcement to QPR, and I mean, I just was like, oh, I can't believe it. I was gutted inside when Jordan Obita left. It was like, yeah, he was a helpful player, he was a useful player, and I'm sure he's a quality player, but was he doing a lot for Oxford United? Was he taking Oxford? If we took Jordan Obita out of that team, were we gonna, would we not be on the run that we're on if we took Jordan Obita out of that team? I'll let you answer that question, but it's an interesting one, and of course we wish him good luck at Wycombe. Obviously they're in the Championship, they're struggling at the Championship at the moment, but it's a player to come in. I'm pretty sure Jacobson, their left back, he got injured, so they tried to bring in, or they have brought in Jordan Obita. They were looking at some left backs and some sort of left wing back sort of things, and Jordan Obita is an option, and we met the valuation of Jordan Obita and we've let him go. So it's an interesting one. It's one of those where it's okay. It's not bad. It's decent, and hopefully Jordan Obita, we got a decent figure, decent fee for Jordan Obita, and we definitely made profit, whether it was £5 or 500 grand. We definitely didn't make. I don't think we would get £500,000 for him, but either way, we got profit from him. It's good business, and of course, it is a player as well that is over the age of 21 that frees more room up in sort of for loans that are under the age of 21. So it's good. It's a good piece of business, and I'm happy, and we wish him the best of luck, of course, for the future. And for him personally as well, we look at him, what it means for him as well. He was on a short-term deal at Oxford. I don't think he even moved down to Oxford. I'm pretty sure he was still sort of living in the Reading area. I don't know where he lives. I don't know his address either. But what I would say is, I'm pretty sure he was still living at Reading from where he was before. I think it made sense for him. Wycombe. I don't know all the contracts, sort of the whole contract details with him at Wycombe, but I believe it was a much longer deal than it was at Oxford United, the one that we offered him at the start of the season, and it's sort of in the last window. So security for him, I guess. It's a good move for him. He's now got a long-term deal at a club on a set time, well, not a set time, but on a longer time than he was here. And for us, we've made some decent money, and we don't know how much we made, but we have made some money. Like I said, whether it be a quid, a fiver, or however much we got for him, we'll never know. But I think it's a good piece of business for Oxford there. Anyway, we'll move on now to the next in. We'll move on to the next arrival for Oxford United in the January transfer window. And it came yesterday, of course, on deadline day. We made 3 transfers on deadline day. Some really good piece of business. And the next one was Elliot Lee. Very, very interesting. And I give your thoughts on Elliot Lee in the chat. I'll be intrigued to see what you think of this Elliot Lee in. Because from what we know, and from what we're seeing, and from what Luton fans are saying, and from what a lot of people are sort of saying on social media, Elliot Lee looks to be a little gem. He looks to be a player that can, add a spark, add something very, very interesting. And funny I used the word spark, because that's exactly the word that Carl Robinson used when he was asked, sort of, in the last game against Fleetwood before the game. He was sort of asked about transfers and asked about the squad, and he said, we've got a good squad, we're on a good run. This wasn't the exact quotation, but it was along these sort of lines. We've got a good squad, we've got a good side, we're in good form, but we're missing that extra spark. We're missing that player that's going to just go, it's going to click, and it's going to set the whole team alight, and we're going to be, going, literally on fire. And as much as we look at this league, the run we're on, and it's a great run, and I'm not going to be critical of it. I'm loving every minute of it. It's a great run we're on. I understand what he means. A player in that team where you go, we've got lots of players, I think, that can go, where you can go, he's a great player. He's a very, very good player. He's important to this team. But if you name a player right now where you go, he can produce magic. And I'm talking the likes of Marcus Brown last season. James Henry's strike against Burton was, Rochdale was a piece of magic. But a winger, I'm talking a winger, a fast, but very, very, quick, very, very good dribbling. I don't know how quick Elliot Lee is, but from what what we're hearing from him, he's a very, very, very good dribbler of the ball. He's very, very versatile, which is important. and I think he could be that spark. So I'm intrigued to see what he's going to bring. I don't think Winner was pushing Taylor enough, and so I think Carl brought him in. Brought in Lee for him to do just that, and 100%, my friend, 100%. I think I think you're spot on there. I think we were looking at Will Grigg as well, which is interesting. That never happened. I'd be interested in what you think about that Will Grigg thing, because that was dodgy. There was something that was weird. That was very, very, very weird. It's very, very unusual for a manager to come out and go, "We want this player and we're going to get him," and then 24 hours later he comes out and goes, "No, we're no longer interested in Will Grigg. He's a great lad," and all that sort of thing. It was a strange one, really. It was sort of like he was going from number one priority to, he's a great man, and after lockdown we're going to go for a few pints at the pub. It was quite a strange one, really. It sort of went from sort of 100% interested to literally about 2% we're just best mates. It was quite a strange one. I don't know if any of you lot sort of saw that on social media, and you sort of saw the quotes from Carl. It was weird, that Will Grigg thing, and leading on to your question about the striker thing. Will Grigg was our number one target to sort of help with the sort of striker depth with Winnall being injured quite a bit and not really pushing Taylor. Taylor's on good form, but I think he's a player that, as all players, I generally think all players need someone behind them, sort of breathing down their neck and sort of giving them problems and knowing that they have to perform because there's players behind them. So I think that's an interesting one, and I think generally this Elliot Lee thing the Elliot Lee player can be helpful. So yeah, I think he's a good player, and I think again he's versatile. Like I keep saying, he can play in those positions and in multiple different positions. And I think it's a good one. It's a really, really good signing, a really, really good player, and I'm very, very excited to see what he can bring to Oxford United for the future. I think he's a good player, really, really good player as well. Anyway, let's move on to the next player. We were moving on anyway. I can't remember exactly where we were moving on to. We were talking about Elliot Lee, weren't we? We were talking about Elliot Lee anyway. No, but generally, I think we were rounding up on Elliot Lee. I think he's a good player. Luton fans seem to rate him. He played quite a lot of football. He's been also a really, really key one as well. He's been promoted out of League One to the Championship before, so he's clearly a player that knows this league well. He knows what it takes to be part of a promoted team. I think it's good. He went to MK Dons to go to his old club and chose that over his old manager. Will Grigg, you talking about there? I'm guessing you are talking about Will Grigg. Did that go over the line? He was? I know the interested clubs were. I'll check this out right now, actually. It was weird, wasn't it? Because we were interested, MK Dons were interested, but from what you're saying, yeah, I think it looks like it does look like he's gone to MK Dons. So yeah, I think that's a good one as well. I'm just seeing on Twitter right now, Moutinho, very, very off topic, completely irrelevant. Moutinho looks to have scored the goal of the season for Will Grigg has just signed for MK Dons. Wow, good signing for them. I think he's a very, very good striker. Experience, he knows the league and he can score goals. I know he's on a bit of a dodgy run at the moment, but I know that he can score goals. And he's a good player, and he's proven to be a good player in this division as well. So good luck to Will Grigg as well. Hopefully he'll be good for him. But yeah, we didn't go for Will Grigg anyway. We went for Elliot Lee. I think that's a good signing. I do think that's a good signing. And I go as far as to say, no offense, Will Grigg, I doubt you're ever going to see this, but I think Elliot Lee is a better signing than Will Grigg, to be honest with you. I think he offers that. I think Will Grigg is a goal scorer, 100%. He's an out-and-out striker. But what Elliot Lee offers is that versatility. He can play behind the striker. He can play on either flanks, maybe. Not really. Not as much as I know he can play as sort of that attacker. I know he's more comfortable on his left, which again makes more sense because we were looking at a left winger anyway. So it's good to see that he can play out there. And of course... and of course he can play out front as well and behind the striker, sort of attacking midfielder. I like it. I like what we're doing there, and I think that's a good signing for Oxford United. Matthew said, I don't know what I heard. I don't know that's what I heard. Will Grigg's on fire. No, I've just confirmed, my friend. I have just confirmed that he has gone to MK Dons in the end. So I knew that it did look likely that he was going to leave. I didn't think he was going to stay at Sunderland. So he's got his move and he's going to MK Dons. So that's interesting. The MK Dons he's got Will Grigg. Will Grigg's on fire. Hopefully he's on fire. Well, not hopefully on fire for MK Dons. I don't want them to be firing, but they are below us in the league table anyway, so hopefully we don't have to worry about them too much. But Will Grigg has joined MK Dons until the end of the season, so he's not an Oxford United player, and Elliot Lee is the man that we targeted and brought in on deadline day instead of him. Right, let's move on to the next out. And we'll go for an out. We'll go with Derek Osei, because there's not much to speak about Derek Osei, really, other than the fact that I think it's a good move for him. We brought him in the summer. He's a winger. He came from France. He looked like a good, exciting prospect. Not a player for now, I don't think. We sort of saw him a little bit. I think he was probably one of our best players in pre-season from what I saw. He looked pretty good. He looked like he's got something about him. He's got a bit of potential, a lot of potential from what we're hearing. And he looks to be an exciting player, but from what we're also hearing as well, Osei isn't a player for now. He isn't a player that's going to come in now and sort of come into that team. Carlton was very, very persistent in saying that Obita, Osei, that Osei was a player that was thinking of the future of the football club, which is a little bit weird because we only gave him a 2-year contract. So if he sort of does nothing for Walsall, which hopefully that isn't the case, hopefully he sets Walsall alight in League Two. Hopefully he does that. But being on a 2-year contract, it comes back at the end of the season and maybe it hasn't really worked out. What do we go from there? Do we send him back out loan and again? But if we do that, then come the end of the season, we're going to sign him another contract. It's a strange one, really. It's a really, really strange one. So hopefully the best thing that come out of this is he goes to Walsall, he sets League Two alight, which I think he can do. He's done great for Oxford United from what we've seen in sort of the Papa John's games. He scored some. I think he scored more than one goal. It might be one goal in that competition. From pre-season, he looked very, very good as well. He's got he's very, very highly thought of from France. Got good potential. I'm interested and intrigued to see what Derek Osei can do out on loan to Walsall. So hopefully he can be a good player, and hopefully he can, he can be he can really sort of develop and sort of get close to seeing the potential from what we're hearing from there as well. So give your thoughts on Derek Osei. I know someone already has in the chat given their thoughts on Derek Osei, but yeah. And I've just seen as well live on the podcast, Sam Winnall has just scored for Oxford United. It's Sam Winnall that has scored for Oxford in the Papa John's. We're talking about how Sam Winnall needs to score goals in this competition, and live on the podcast, right here, right now, he's just scored a goal. I mean, it's the magic of the podcast, and that's very, very good as well. But I hope he finds his form in League Two. 100%, my friend, 100%. That's what we needed to do. The best thing that come out of this is Derek Osei goes down to League One and he sets it alight. But crazingly, Sam Winnall has just scored for Oxford United, so that's good for him. Very, very happy for him, and yeah, it seems to have worked out well. So yeah, it looks good. But anyway, yeah, Derek Osei, not much really to speak about there, other than he's a player that is not ready right now, but has got hopefully a player that can come in. He's a player for the future, and a loan move into League Two seems like a good one. We'll go to the final out because we'll leave. I'd say, I'll be careful how I say it, but I think we'll say one of the best signings till last. I think you know who I'm talking about. It's on the screen right now already, but we'll come on to him last. But we'll come on to the last out because it's a strange one. It's an interesting one. So, Joel Cooper, of course, a player that we brought in from Ireland. Ireland. We've seemed to have pretty good sort of links with Ireland in terms of the recruitment. So that seems good. But anyway, Joel Cooper came in from Ireland in the summer as a winger, of course. He was a left winger. And a right winger, but mainly a left winger from what I remember. We didn't see too much of him, obviously. And he has gone back to Linfield on loan. We bought him from Linfield, but he's gone back there to Ireland for sort of personal reasons. It was, something going on that, we obviously don't need to know about or do know about. So yeah, that's the case there with Joel Cooper. Obviously, we wish him all the best, and hopefully hopefully Joel Cooper can be a good player going back to Linfield where he obviously came from. So yeah, Joel Cooper looks like a good one, and not too much more to say than that as well. Isn't Joel Cooper injured? No, he was injured, and then he's now gone back to Linfield. I don't know whether he's been injured out back at Linfield, but he has gone back to Linfield on loan. Anyway, right, we're going to try and wrap this up really quickly. So we'll do about 5 more minutes on the last player, of course, Brandon Barker on loan, the biggest signing in my opinion. We saved it till last. It was the last signing of the window. Brandon Barker joined on loan from Rangers until the end of the season. There was a lot of discussion about, were we going to get this winger? Was it going to happen? Was Elliot Lee going to be the winger? We didn't really know, but it took I was up till 11 o'clock last night. Matthew as well will remember. Matthew will obviously will definitely say from his end that we were DMing on the podcast Instagram about I actually had already made the graphic for the podcast now, and I was very, very, very certain that we were going to do that deal, and it wasn't announced until 11 o'clock by Oxford United. The deal got done, it got over the line, and it's a good and it's a good sign in there. I was very, very very, very excited when that deal happened and when it got confirmed, because I think he's going to be a great player. From what I've seen, again, he really does help us out. He's a player that Carlson described as his number one target, his number one priority, which is always a good sign as well. But yeah, it looks like a really good player who hopefully can be a really good player for Oxford United and sort of take us to the next level, I guess. We've seen Mide Shodipo do well, but I think we definitely need a player that can come in on the left and help Shodipo and again push Shodipo. We couldn't just rely on Mide. He's a good player. We've seen that, but Brandon Barker, he's a good player as well. He's 24 as well, so he's not just a young, an 18-year-old random player that hasn't been played at the top level before. He's played for Rangers on multiple occasions. He's well thought of at Rangers as well. Ex-Manchester City is sort of an ex-Manchester City player as well. So he's come from a really good sort of development youth background. So excited about Brandon Barker, and hopefully he can be a good player as well. And I'm just putting out there now, Mide Shodipo is currently starting for Oxford United as we speak as well. So I'd be interested to see if he's starting now, because Brandon Barker could be making his debut against Doncaster on Saturday. The biggest game for a long time. Doncaster is going to be a huge game. Third in the table. They're unbeaten in 2021, just like we are as well. It's a huge game. Away from home. It's going to be a difficult game. But is Brandon Barker going to make his debut on the left wing in that game? Are we going to see more debuts as well? Are we going to see any of these new arrivals come in as well? I hope him and Taylor can work wonders. I think, that front three of Brandon Barker, Matty Taylor and James Henry, again, not to put too much pressure on him, but I will put a bit more pressure on this lad because he's proven that he's a top quality player. He's proven that he's a quality player. It's not like McNally where, he's a young player that's developing. This is a player that has played for Rangers on multiple occasions. He's a good player and we've seen it. So I'm expecting big things from Brandon Barker. I'm excited to see what he can offer. And that front three of Barker, Taylor and Henry as good as well. Some of the potential lineups we've been looking at as well. Stevens will going back in goal to the same back line. I don't think Grayson and McNally comes into that back line. I think we've got to be clear about that. That back line at the moment is good. We keep it like that. But we could even see Gorin staying. Brannigan obviously coming in as well. Brannigan looked like he could leave as well. So I am going to wrap this up right now. But I've got a few more things I want to talk about. But we are going to wrap this up now as well. I might speak about sort of the Brannigan thing in another episode of the podcast, because it looked like at one point I was a bit worried that we could see him go. We didn't see any players go in the end, but there was an official bid for Cameron Brannigan as well from Millwall as well. But we rejected it. It was a pretty laughable offer, but yeah, interesting deal that, and we will come on to that as well. But we've spoken about the transfer, we've spoken about the ins, we've spoken about the outs in January, and it's been a really good podcast. The interaction's been incredible as well. If you haven't left a like on this episode of the podcast, whether you're watching this as a normal episode or a live episode, please do consider it. And of course, subscribe to you as well. We do lots of different content, not just Oxford content. I'm an Oxford fan, so I do a lot of content in Oxford. But that's because I love Oxford, because I'm an Oxford United supporter. But I also do other content as well. I am working, of course, on a big League One video as well, where I look at all League One clubs and their players and statistics. It's going to be a banger, hopefully. I'm not blowing my own trumpet too much. Hopefully it's going to be good as well. That's going to be a good one. That's a good one as well, Matthew. I don't know if you mean that as an idea for an episode of the podcast, but I will be doing. That's a great idea. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to make that a thing. Where I'm going to do a specific podcast episode where we look at the formation and the tactics with these new players sort of implemented in. I think that should make its own podcast. I think that's exciting. When we look at the players, we can sort of really look at what we can do. I will do a specific one for that. Great idea. I thank you for that. Anyway, people, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the podcast. And I see you later. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in a bit. See you later. Yeah, it's a video idea. Fantastic, Matthew.